Ooganasta, neep, neep, jeep, ooganasta, ooh. And welcome to MATTO'S Box Mania episode, I don't know what take this is, take 50 million. What we got? Xia, Legends of a Drift System, or as some know it, Xia, or Xia, or Xia. Xia, that's what I call it. So I'm changing the format of these box videos. I'm just going to show the box and then I'll do all the waffling about the design and everything afterwards. So this might be an extra long video because I might waffle quite a bit later on. But anyway, Xia, Legends of a Drift System. What a great game. I love this game. Such good fun. What a hoot. Brilliant game. Now, why do I make the box? 3 reasons I make boxes. Well, and there might be more, but basically 3 reasons. One is to save space. I've got no space in my house. I need to make my box as small as possible. That's one. 2, to make the setup and the tear down easier and quicker. That's why I make them. And 3, to make, if I can, doesn't always happen, gameplay elements, to make gameplay elements easier. And 4th, I just love making these boxes. I really enjoy it. So, you can see how much space I've saved. This is the old Xia box, which is an amazing quality box. Best quality box I've ever seen. It's full 2mm thick. Brilliant. But you can see how much space I've saved there. It's a little bit higher, but this has got the expansion in it as well. So I've saved a ton of space. Then with the setup, before doing this, I did a trial run where I set the game up as if for 3 players, and I did everything, such as shuffling the cards and shuffling the exploration tokens and that, and I set it up as if I was about to play a game. The only thing I didn't do was deciding which ship to do. I just dished out the ships to the 3 players, and it took me 3 minutes to set up. That's got to be good, because the original Xia, I just found it was a complete pig to set up. It wasn't that bad, but there's just a billion baggies to open, and you put them all out and there's bits everywhere. And in the box all the outfits are all mixed up. You've got to half sort out the box before you set up, because everything's all jumbled up, and you know, you're sure you can put everything in baggies, but then everything is baggies. There's baggies everywhere and it's just a chaotic mess. Just nuts. So the setup on this is efficient and great. I like that in the game. Some people like long, drawn-out setups and a bit of chaos or whatever. And then the gameplay elements that have helped. Everything now will be ordered and all that kind of thing, rather than the chaos and the maelstrom that are the tokens when you're playing the game with bits falling on the floor. I'll talk a bit more about that while I'm doing the unboxing. So this is my game. There's the box. I think that actually looks really nice. I couldn't quite manage to get Xia on the picture, but I'll talk about that later in depth. These are the sides. Nice to see there, really. It's just, but I'll talk more about. There's a lot to talk about with what I had to do with that. I'll do that later, if you stay that long. Now, we take the lid off, which has a lovely action. Lovely and tight. Right, before we do that, let's just do the shake test. So you can see, look, shake this up. Shake this up. Right, so all the pieces should all be in the same place inside. So, let's go. So we've got the rules. Now, these rules caused me a few problems with the box making. I'll talk more about that later, but that's for the blah. So here's our box. So let's start off with what's in here. Let's take it out in the order I take it out. So I've got the shipboards here. There's nothing particularly exciting about that. They're just the shipboards. Right, and these go above the tiles and the cards. And all the cards are in tuck boxes. And in these tuck boxes, I've left enough room for the missions and power expansions that I haven't got yet, so they'll fit into these tuck boxes. And I've also built in enough spare room that if they make another expansion of event cards and titles, which I've got a sneaking suspicion they might, but I could be talking rubbish, hopefully they'll fit in there as well. So I've made allowance. Then I've got all the tiles in here, and I always keep the near star on the top, because that's your centre point. So I just keep that on the top and bam, it's there for the setup. These are loose enough to be able to get out easily, but tight enough that they don't move around in the box. You saw me shaking the box up, they're still in place. That's fine. All the bits are still in place. Now let's get to the tokens. This is the resource tray. It's not particularly exciting, it's just a standard tray. But what I've put in here as well is I've put 2 little grooves in there, if you can see them. And what I do with those is when you get events and titles and things, you can put them in there. Because I find in the game, in the sprawling mess, these cards just end up sitting on the table somewhere, and usually they're in amongst with the tokens, or they are when I play it. And they just get lost in there. You don't really notice them, and you forget about them, and then things get covered up, and you get tokens go over them, and they get lost. And this is great, I think. This is just constant reminder that they're there. But admittedly, I've only just finished making this box, so this hasn't had the trial in the game, so it might be a bad idea, I don't know. But anyway, I think that's a good idea. They sit like that. And then you can have the economy board right next to it, and you've got your tokens, which these have got plastic inserts in them to help you get them out, like the Small World one, where the plastic goes along the bottom and then curls up the side. So these cubes come out easily. They don't get stuck in the corners like they can if you don't have them. So that's a pretty basic token tray. This next one's a pretty basic token tray too. There's nothing special here. We've just got the damage tokens, the ice tokens, money, etc. Now the thing that's good with this one is that on how we've been playing, these take up loads of room. They sprawl into this pancake of just stuff. So do these, so do these. They all just sprawl and they take up loads of room on the table. And then they get mixed up, or they get knocked on the floor, and they're just all over the place. It's just a mess. And here, it's just tidy. Does it matter? I don't know. I quite like a bit of tidiness, really. But, you can give people the tokens from here. When they repair the ship, they go back in there. So you're tearing down as you're playing. Same with all of these aspects. Rather than them all sprawling out, it's all self-contained. I don't know if there's much else to say about that thing really. It's just a basic component tray, but it keeps it tidy. Now these are fancy bits. These took a lot of working out. I won't do this one actually. Let's do this one first. So these are the outfits. Now the outfits have a tendency to go everywhere over the table and sprawl around and get mixed up and confused, and trying to get them out of the box and keep them ordered, and it's just a complete mess. These are really ordered. They're really easy to get out. You just lift them out from here. And they're just ordered, and then if you sell them you can put them back in. So again, you're tearing down as you're playing. They're all in there, they're all on view for new players, so you can pass it to a new player so you can see the costs, whatever. And you also have to think on this, you have to think about how you're going to get it in and out of the box. So I've purposefully made these 2 gaps here, which are my grab points, so I can grab my tray there and slide that in and out. These are pretty fancy, and that's good and ordered and tidy. Took me a long time to make and plan out. And then these ones, and these have got the expansion bits in, like the computers and the piercers and the max shield things. Same principle. And again, here and here, you have to think, where are you going to hold the thing to be able to put it in and out? Without those, I wouldn't be able to get them in and out of the box. You have to think about these things. But they're very tidy. I really like them. I was, you know, that gave me a right old lift when I made them. Took me a long time though, not mucking about. Then we have, this is not particularly exciting, another standard tray. These are the player pieces. Now I toyed with a few ideas of how to do the player pieces. I'll talk about it later, my thought processes for this. But these have got the plastic sheets in to be able to get the bits out. You can just pull the bits out and give them to the players or pass it round. And again, this has got the things for the, you can get 2 cards in here, but unfortunately you have to put them in that way round because the tray isn't as long as these trays. But you can get two of them in there. Wormholes, God, they're deadly, the wormholes. So again, they just remind you they're there. They just shout at you, don't forget about the events. Because some of the games we play, you forget about these things. And forget about the cards, you get too wrapped up in what you're doing. But that's just me playing badly, I suppose. Then another basic tray, component tray of the tokens. Again, these have got 2 slots, so I can hold 6 cards, which might not be enough. Sometimes you get more than 6 cards. You just have to think of some solution for the other ones, double them up or something, I don't know. And so in here now, I've got the expansion exploration tokens, the base ones which you never use, the relics, and a few other bits and bobs like outlaw tokens and bits and bobs. These have all got plastic trays in them, you know. And then this is one aspect of the box that didn't really work, you know. I thought you put them in like that because you can get them out really easily, and then you can, oh, now I've put them upside down, what a fool. You know, it's fiddlast basically. But you know, you have to put them down there, and then these need shuffling, you see. So you shuffle these, and then you could leave those on the table like that, which is what I probably do. And then as people cash them in, you can put them back in here. And again, you're tearing down as you're playing. Or if you were fussy, but it's not a particularly great idea, I don't know, I have to play with it to see. You could do that and put them in here and draw them out of here as people scan parts of the galaxy, and as they cash them in you can put them into the back. But there is a chance that you could you end up, they flip over a little bit in here and you can see the backs and see what's coming. But you could do that. But in the original game, out of the baggie, you put them out of the baggie, you've got, you know, half of them are turned the wrong way, you've got to turn them over, do all that, and then trying to get them back into baggies, and that's the same with these things, you know, when you're tearing down, getting the things back into the baggies, and you pick them up and you're trying to get them, bits are falling out, and then one falls on the floor, and then you've got a couple left and you can't pick them up. Don't know, do you know what I mean? Do you have these problems? Probably not, probably just me. Same with the relic tokens, you can whip these out easy, you shuffle them, and these actually sit better in here, so you could put them in there and draw them out of there. And that takes the 2 extra cards. That's pretty basic. And then the final thing in the box is the ships, which isn't my favourite solution that I've done. Excuse me. I would have, in my wildest dreams, I would have liked to have the ships in here on their stands, so you could pick the ships out on their stands. You don't have to build them each game. I'll go into more detail in my waffly bit after this about, there was quite a lot of thought and decisions and thinking processes that went into this, and in the end I just went for the simple solution, which is not a great solution. I've just put them in here. There's my level 1 ships, level 2 ships, level 3 ships, and the NPCs. And at the end of the day, I've done it like this to save space. I've got the ice comets on their stands because I actually find them quite difficult to put on their stands. Well, you know, it's not difficult, but I always end up having to look all the way around twice before I find the hole to put the stand in. So they're all in there. This isn't the best solution because these just rattle around in the box. You know, when I'm shaking up, these are going to be bashing around off each other. But in the baggies in the main box, they're doing that anyway, so there's no different really from the main box, apart from they're actually a lot easier to access. Do you know? I don't know. We'll see. That's just what I came up with. I'll live with it. It's fine. And then I've got my stands just in here. Then, so you can see on the table, you know, this is how much space everything takes up on the table. Where's that? I can't really board gone. I'm trying to be efficient in this video and now I'm messing around. So, you know, this is how much space everything's going to take. It's not that much. A little bit of table space. You're sure you'll have a pack of tiles and you'll have 3 piles of cards. But compared to what it was before, with this mass of chaos up the end of the table, that it's just a mess, and then your galaxy expands and suddenly your galaxy is expanding into where you keep the tokens and you have to push everything back and it all gets mixed up and it all gets chaotic and lose the cards. Now if you need to do that, it's easy. You just move these boxes, it's all ordered, doesn't take up as much space. I think that actually enhances the gameplay, especially if there's one person who, you know, kind of is up the end of the table where the tokens are and they're dishing out the tokens and dealing with it. It takes any stress, if there is any stress, out of it for them because it's really easy. And then you can see, probably, at the end of the game, apart from what's on your shipboards, all of this is going to be like this. So you just put the few things from your shipboards away and the teardown is so quick and easy. Obviously it's not as quick as this because you have to put a few bits, sort a few bits out, but you know, it is literally bam bam. So there we go, that is my Xia Legends of a Drift System box. One of my favourite boxes that I've made. I really like the way I've done that. I'm quite happy with the graphics, even though a bit weird. But on the whole, not as many issues as I get with some other boxes. And the structure of the box that I made is probably one of the best ones I've made. I've got a series of videos on Board Game Geek and my YouTube channel, MATTO'S, Box Mania, on both of them, on a geek list and the YouTube channel, and I talk about how I make boxes on that, and there's problems in some of them, difficulties, because I'm learning. But if you want to watch more boxes, you can go to them, but they're a lot more boring because I do a lot of waffling. So that is it. So leave the video now if that's all you wanted to see was the box. That's fine. Now I'm going to probably spend, and I wouldn't be surprised if it goes another half an hour. I'll try not to go as long as that, but I'm going to talk about the issues I had with making the box and design decisions and problems that I had. So, say goodbye if you go, hello if you stay. Well done for staying if you stay. So now I'm going to waffle about this. And why am I love talking about my board game boxes, and that's why all my old videos are so waffly. Because I just love talking. I've got no one to talk to about it because I start talking about boxes with my friends and they're just like, boring. Matt's talking about his boxes again. And they're not really that interested. Not in any depth. So this is my chance to talk about my boxes. Without getting any grief from anyone, I can just waffle on about all the things. Because I find it fascinating, the things that go through with making the boxes. So, let's talk about... okay, let's take the lid off. I'll talk about the lid at the end because there's an awful lot of waffle about the lid and people might get bored by them. But you can see that, you know, there's things to talk about with that. Let's just talk about this main box here, bit by bit, and I'll just talk about some of the difficulty bits that I had. So this rulebook was the first thing. Now, in fact, I'll start somewhere else with my waffling. The first thing that I had to consider when making this box was what size box to put it in. Now I would have spent, before I even started making this box, I probably thought about it for like a couple of weeks, thinking about while I'm driving, thinking about while I'm working, while I'm eating dinner, thinking about things and planning in my head, just loosely how I'm going to make it. And I had to decide what size box to make it in. So now, in fact, right, let's come back to the lid. So the first thing I was thinking about when I think about this is I have 3 or 4 standard sizes that I try to make, because I used to just make them as efficient as possible. You end up with millions of different sizes. So standard sizes. So this was my kind of Puerto Rico type a la box, Euro box size. Then I've got a bigger box, which is like power grid size. That's for ones with bigger boards and things like that. And then I've got various other standard sizes. So I had to decide what box to put them in. And so I have to think about what are the deciding factors to help me make that decision. So the first thing I think about generally is the graphics of the box. Obviously, because this game hasn't got a board or something like that, which will always dictate what box you're putting in, the board dictates it generally. But this doesn't have one, so I could choose what size to put it in. So I'd think about the graphics, and I've got this frame here, like this, right? And I'd get the original box, and I could put this over the original box, and I could move this around to get a picture of if I'm going to be able to make the picture fit. Do you know? And so I kind of did this, and I worked out that there was this place, that I could make the picture fit. I'll go into more detail about that later, because I'm not going to waffle on loads about the lid. But that was the first thing, because I wanted in my heart to get it into this size box, because if I went into that other size box, it's almost the same size as the original Xia box, and then what's the point of making it, apart from I can make it not quite so deep and help with the setup and that. So I didn't want to, if I could help it, I didn't want to go into that bigger size box. I really like the idea of this size box, and I love this shape of box. It's a bit like a golden rectangle, if you know the golden rectangle, the Da Vinci or the Greeks, who was it, did the golden rectangle? I think it was Da Vinci. Or was it the Greeks? I don't know. But I love this shape and size box. I don't like square ticket to ride boxes. I love this shape. It appeals to me. So that was one, the graphics. And I thought I can get that onto that. The next one is, what are the limiting factors to, are there any factors that can prevent me going into a box like this? And the rule book is obviously one. Now, the rule book on this is strange, because you've got 3 rule books. You've got the main rule book, you've got the expansion rule book. So I'm just going to check that this video is working, because this is about the 5th time I've made this video. I've wasted hours trying to make this video. I'm not going to do it again. Right, these ones fit lovely in here. It's fine. But this one, for whatever reason, and I don't understand why, it was considerably wider than this rule book. You'd think they'd be the same if they were doing it from the same, manufacturers. But this was way wider, and it wouldn't fit in my standard box size. I've done things to make it fit, but it was sticking out loads, and that almost pushed me into doing it in the bigger box. But I thought about, could I make it fit in here? So what I did was I cut the edge off the rule book, and I cut it as close as I can to the edges without it ruining it, and still legible. But you can see at points, I don't know if you can see there, it is very close to the edge, but it is still readable. It's alright, but I cut a good few millimetres off that. I'll probably cut 4-5 millimetres off that, which is quite a lot. I don't know now, I can't remember because I've cut them off. But I cut, a good amount off, 4 or 5 millimetres. But it still didn't fit. It was still too wide. And I was getting a bit exasperated by this point. And then I had the idea of what I would do was I would actually make the box to accommodate that extra overhang. So you can, I mean, this is me being such a fuss pants, it's unbelievable. So normally, right, this box is 2mm grey board and it's doubled up. So each wall here is 4mm. But here I've made the inner 2mm of it down in a little step. Can you see that? There's down a step because I needed that extra 2mm for the rule book to fit in. So that took a bit of, it didn't take any work to do, but it's just a bit fiddle-assed. And now that rule book fits in lovely. So it just goes to show, that was one of many decisions and things that I have to think about when I'm making these boxes. There's so many of fiddle-ass decisions like that, just for me to get it into a standard size box, for example. If I wasn't worried about the size, I wouldn't have to think about things like this. But there's so many, you know, I'm so fussy, so anal to get it perfect. Such a perfectionist. To some degree anyway. That's just the example of some of the things you have to go through. But I made it work, so I was delighted. So I'm suddenly thinking, yeah, we're heading for this shape box. Yeah, I can get that bit in. And then what I would do is I would get the biggest components and start off with the biggest components. So the biggest components were the ship mats and tiles and the cards. And one decision that I was trying to work out was, with the tiles especially, do I put them, how do I do them? Because I like, as often as I can when I make boxes, to keep them as shallow as I possibly can, because that's the important dimension on your shelves. You know, it's the main one is, you know, this one isn't quite so important. It does make a difference, but it's the depth that makes a difference. So I was thinking, shall I have them in one stack, which will make the box really tall, or will I put them in try and get them into two stacks in order to try and get the things down? And I couldn't get two stacks working in this box, you know, because I could only get them in there. They wouldn't go in this way, they go in there, and then you put the cards in and you end up with the stack of things at this height, and then this tuck box makes it go up, and then other tuck boxes. You end up with all these different heights, which can be very hard to make a box efficient if you're ending up with all different heights. And then I kind of discovered that the height of the single stack was pretty much the same as the height of the tuck boxes. And so I thought that was the most efficient way to do it. I've got room for two spare tiles in there in case there's ever an expansion of a couple of tiles or promos or something online or whatever on there. So I can get a couple of extra tiles in there. But I went with that. I could have got the two piles of tiles easily in the bigger box. Easily, you know. And the bigger box, if I had done the bigger box, it would have been pretty thin, I reckon. I could have made it into the bigger box. So that was my decisions there. Again, I would have spent a lot of time thinking about that. I talk about it in 3 minutes, but you know, I spent a lot of time moving components around within boxes and thinking, can I do this? Can I do it that way? What's it like this way? What's it like? Hours and hours later. Let's see. I've talked about this. This is it's just a bog standard tray. I've talked about this. It was pretty cosmic. This box is quite cosmic. It's quite cosmic in the way that the width of this box is just perfect for the 6 sets of components with some strong dividers in between to get them, you know, a row of 3. It was the perfect width. And when you get cosmic things like that, me being the kind of weird guy I am, I take that as little signs that I'm on the right track. When I get serendipity like that, I think, yeah, that's good. I'm going to keep going with that. I like that. That's working. This tray has not got much. There's nothing to say about this tray. These trays. There's not much to say about these, apart from, you know, I've said everything to do with the grab points and everything. What else can I mention about these trays now? These took a lot of thinking about and a lot of working out, and again, serendipitous and cosmic that I've realised as I was doing it, because I made this and this, so I put this wall in and this wall in to do the space for this first, because I kind of make it up as I'm going along, all the spacing. I don't work it out on paper or a computer program or anything like that. I kind of do it by feel, and you know, it kind of evolves as I make it. And so I'd put this bar in and this bar in, and I thought, right, I can get let's see if I can get the outfits then in here. And I discovered that dimension there was exactly perfect. I can't say how perfect, it's so perfect for 5 squares worth of outfit plus a bar, a strong bar, and it was perfect to within 1 millimeter, because you need a little millimeter of play. You can't do it to the exact measurements because you'll never get it out, so you need a bit of space. And it was perfect. Again, more cosmic signs that I was on the right way, and that was the big one. Once I discovered that, I was like, yes, I'm on the right track. You know, if it had been a little bit, if I'd needed a little bit more, I've got a little bit of play in here. I could have moved this around, or if it was a bit less, I could have moved this to butt up to it, but that was how I was working things out. Now this thing, right, it's only got a single 2 millimeter base on it, which is quite floppy and flexible. So it really needs, because there's no board around the edge like on, you know, on something like that, that's got a strong board around the edge which gives it its inherent strength. You need these crossbars going across to strengthen it. It's still a little bit floppy. You know, it's not floppy, you know, it's all right, but it's you can still flex it if you know, abused it. But I could have added another layer to this and made this a 4 millimeter, made it a 4 millimeter base by adding another sheet. But then if I'd done that, I might have been able to cope with 2 millimeters. But I would have done it on this as well, and that would have added 4 millimeters to the depth. Now, because I'm going so tight, I can't afford to lose 4 millimeters. Not in this one. Not when I don't need to. So it's a little bit flexible. This one's stronger because I've actually got a bar along here and a big long bar along there. So that one's, I mean, this isn't weak. You know, it's really strong, but it's just a bit flexible. And then in making this, you know, I've thought about my grab points, that's important, but I've got a few little holes here that are okay, you know, they're just holes, they're nothing. But these gave me a little bit of security, that because there's a few just random tokens, like, you know, these 3, you know, they're just 3 little tokens, that goes on the board. You know, these are for other things. These could have fitted in there if I needed it, do you know? If I found I was running out of room for some fiddly tokens or something small or fiddly, I had a bit of spare room. I didn't use them in the end, but it was there. It was, you know, it was nice. I don't know quite what else to say about these things. There's not much else to say. You know, they've got the plastic inserts to be able to pull out the these little single ones. These have got the plastic inserts in to pull them out. Everything's got them plastic inserts in. If ever you're making boxes, you know, or inserts, always put this plastic sheet that comes up, because it helps you get the things out. You know, it's just a really thin plastic sheet I get from printers, and you just cut it and glue it down. Maybe I'll make a video about that. I don't know. So that's all that bit done. And there was quite bits of design work. There was a lot of design work in that, in doing them outfits, and I spent a long time doing them, hours and hours, putting them in different orientations and working out what's the nicest way and the most efficient way to be able to pull them out, and rather than just doing it, bugging them on and that'll do, I would experiment and try different things and spend the time doing that. What a load of... I'm really waffling in this video. I'm sick of making this video. It's the 5th time I've made it. I've had ones where the camera quality wasn't good, then the camera ran out of battery, then the phone ran out of memory, and 45-minute video, and then it's all dead because I can't do editing to change things. I have to remake the whole thing, so it's all just a one-take wonder, these are, and that's another reason why it's so waffly and boring, because I can't cut any of the stuff out. That's just what it's like. That's just how it is, and you just got to live with it. Right. This box, what is there to say about this box? Not a lot, really. I mean, ideally, generally when I make boxes, I like to have the player pieces in individual boxes. You can give the player their little box of pieces. For some reason I quite like that. But I didn't do that with this one. I thought about doing it, but it would have meant making 5 tiny little boxes. In order to store it, it would have taken up a bit more space. And then you could give someone one of these boxes, and they put their tokens out on their shipboard and that, and then they've got an empty box here with the spare token that's just next to them. It's just hassling their vibe, hassling their area. It seemed kind of pointless, really. I don't know. And I thought that's actually rubbish. It's not like a game where you're using pieces and you're putting pieces on the board, taking them off, and you've got a little stash of bits that are going on and off the board. You get these pieces, you put them on the board, and they stay on the board. So I just did it like that. You can pass them around. It's easy enough to give someone their coloured pieces, and it gave me the chance to get those slots for the cards. That's fine. I did that like that. This one, what is there to say about this? Nothing really. I explained everything about this in the overview about getting why I've done it like this. These have all got the plastic inserts in. Not much to say there. And the ships. Now, I spent a lot of time thinking about these ships. Even before I made anything, I spent ages thinking about ships, because in my wildest dreams, as I say, I would have liked to have all the ships on their stands, so you're not building them. And in my wildest dreams, it would be like, oh, you want this ship, you just reach in, poof, there you get your ship. It's fine. I maybe could have done that in the bigger size box. I think I probably could have done that in the bigger size box, but I was so set. I knew this box would just look lovely. Doing the big box would have been big, and it would have been very thin, and it's just this box has so much more presence for me. So anyway, I spent a good while thinking about how to do this. Now, I could have almost done it, if not possibly done it, and got it into this space underneath these tokens with them in their stands, at least most of them. But the thing is the space was so tight that if I'd had that work, it would have meant putting particular ships in particular places in a particular orientation to maximise the efficiency of the space. Does that make sense? So, for example, I think this is a good one. If you had a ship like this, it doesn't take any time to put them together. That's fine. If you had a ship like this, if that's sitting in the box like that, it takes up a certain amount of space. But if it's like that, it's different. It takes up a different type of space. So the only way that I was kind of going to be able to do it was to have the ships kind of overlapping like this in order to maximise the space used up, rather, and it meant that if you've done that, this ship has to go in this orientation and not in that orientation, because then it won't fit. So you would have to have a particular space and a particular orientation. It's too fiddly. It could work but you'd have to know the box intimately. You'd have to write on there what ship it is and what orientation it is. If someone's helping you put the game away, or you lend the game to someone to play, they're not going to be able to work it out. It's too difficult, and it's going to be too fiddly getting in there to get the bits because it's so deep. I could have done it, but I'm pleased I didn't, because it was too much. Because at the end of the day, it's no bother to pull your ship out and stick a stand on it, is it? I'm being super anal, super fussy. I'm thinking too much about it all, do you know? But it's nice to think about the things, and I enjoy the challenges, because in other games that I've done, I have done things like that and they've worked out well. But I thought for this, it's not worth it. I've got the ice crystals on their stands because they're awkward, and you know, and I could probably get another couple of the NPCs because they come out in every game, so you could do that. But at the end of the day, that's fine. And I, you know, and the overriding factor was I knew that just bunged in like this, they don't take up any space. As soon as you put the stands on them, the space they take is, you know, increased sixfold. Do you know? So this is all right. The only thing, you know, the two things I don't like about this, and then minor things, you know, one is over the years with putting things on stands and taking them off stands, you know, the ships are going to wear, you know, the holes will wear, or the stands will wear and they'll come loose, and I don't know. It's not really going to be an issue, is it? I'm being super fussy. And the other thing is that these ships are all rattling around in here, and they'll probably get damaged with paint chipping and things like that over the years. Doesn't matter, does it? That's what's going to happen in the original box anyway. In the baggies, they just get a bit damaged like that. I might try and put some foam or something in here, and then that will actually stop them moving. But to be honest, I'm not that fussed about it. That's what I did with the ships. And at the same time, this is quite nice. Someone wants to upgrade their ship, you can just give them this box and they can look for it and find it, you know. And there's enough play in how these ships sit that it's just easy. You know, there's enough room for everything. Just give it a shake and they'll all be in there. Waffle, 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 blah, blah, blah. What am I on about? Boring. And then the final thing to do with this box is I've just got the stands in there. Now, this was slightly intentional because you can see the stands in here, right, and they're not full up to the top. So if I was being super efficient, I could have moved this divider over, and that would have pushed all these more up to the top and taken the volume. And that would have given me more room in here for the ships and the tokens and things like that. But in doing this and not having it full, that's given me an extra little space that if I had had problems with these tokens and the ships in fitting them into this space, I had a little overflow here that I could have put another tray into to maybe put a few tokens, or maybe these small ships, you know, could have gone in there. Because I haven't worked it, you know, with things like this, it's really hard to work out how much space they take. And, you know, so that was quite a nice thing to do. And it also gives me a chance that if there was some sort of weird expansion that you didn't expect and it had more tokens and I haven't got room to fit them in, I've got a little place here to put them in. It's a waste of space, but I'm thinking of the future. I'm thinking of the thing while I'm making it. While I'm making the box, just as safety nets. Now, what else to talk about with this box? I mean, you know, I'm going to finish this video and I'll think, oh, I didn't mention that. No one's watching this anyway. My videos get 2 views and one of them's me. Now, I'm painted the box black. I've left this brown. This is a standard thing, right? And I've done that for a reason. Because when I paint it, you know, or when I'm making the box, and I made the bottom and I've made the lid, it's all in brown paper, it slides on and off so lovely. So lovely. And then when you paint it, it all goes weird. And the boxes warp a bit, and it all gets, you know, because paint, it has a thickness and a tackiness, and it stops that nice thing. So I've left this. I might, in 6 months, when the whole thing's loosened up, because it does loosen up and it sort of shrinks a bit and gets a bit squashed as you open and close it a lot. I might paint that black in the future, but for now it's got such a nice action, you know. And it was interesting that during the making of this box, there was a few things I learned, and one is, and it dawned on me, and I'm amazed it's taken so long for it to dawn on me, of why on earth do I make the box, cover it in brown paper, and then paint it black, when it's the painting causes problems. It makes my boxes worse, the painting, but I like the black. And it dawned on me, why don't I just make it in black paper? And I'd thought about that before, but it actually hit me really hard in this box. What are you doing, Matt, you fool? Cover them in black paper. Find the right black paper. Find black paper that's the same as this brown paper, because this brown paper is nice because it kind of shrinks and it, you know, it goes really nicely on the box because it soaks up the glue and it goes on really nicely. If I can find the same paper but black, just do that and get rid of the paint, because the paint is, you know, the paint is rubbish. Why am I making it with paint? But now I've got to try and find black paper, which isn't easy to source. It's not easy to source stuff like that because you need to get it in your hands. You can't just buy it on the internet because you don't know what it's like. You need to see it and feel it. And in Ireland, trying to find specialised stuff like that is really difficult. It's not like I'm living in London, like where I'm from, when you can just go to some mega specialised shop and it's all there. You know, Jesus, you know, I could go to the nearest city and they'll go, black paper? Are you joking? You can't get black paper here. Go to Dublin. Black paper? What are you talking about? You can't get that here. There's Ireland for you. But anyway, hopefully I can get it in Cork, but I'm going to have to hunt it down. So, that's the box now. The final thing is just to talk about this. I think this box, I actually really like the look of this box. Let's talk with this top bit. I talked about putting the frame on it to work out what I could do. And I couldn't get the Xia on it anywhere. You know, I mean, this is the bit cut out. The Xia was up here. And no matter how I tried, I couldn't get the Xia on it. And if I wanted to get Xia on it, I was having to chop this ship in half, crop it in whatever form. And it just kind of looks rubbish when you're cropping it and chopping it. It doesn't look right. Sometimes you just have to. It's one of the bummers with making your own boxes. And this happens especially when you're making a large reduction in the footprint of the box. You know, if the original box was this shape, it's fine. You just cut it up and stick it on because it's the right shape. You know, you'll do that to make it thinner. That's why I'd be making a box like that. But when you're really changing the size and shape of the box, you always have these issues that you've got to think about. So I couldn't get that on no matter how I tried. And I really didn't want to chop that ship up. But what's happened here, you see, the original Xia box was fine. No, we've got no issues with it at all in the artwork. The artwork's fine, it's just grand. But there was something about the original picture that I didn't like. And, you know, only a tiny little bit, but not liking it. It's too strong. It just, there was just something that just went like that at me. And it was just like, and it was just sort of just a bit random. It was like, you know, you had this ship, and then the bit that said Xia, Legends of a Drift System, was kind of just in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't, you know, it was just a bit odd. It was just floating about. Maybe it was meant to be like that because it's Legends of a Drift System. I don't know, I doubt it, but it might have been. But, you know, and I found that the positioning of that was weird, and there was a bit here and a bit there and a bit there. It was okay. I didn't have a problem with it, but there was just a little niggle at it. And I actually think this is better now, because this ship, which I like the picture of this ship. This ship is now really dominant, you know, like on the old one, it was a bit more, you know, it was to the side. It wasn't so dominant, which is fine, because it wanted to show other things. But now this is like, bam, big ship. It maybe doesn't show all the fighting and all the other things of the game, but I really like the way that this looks. And the fact that I've got Legends of a Drift System is okay. It doesn't have Xia, but you never see this anywhere. You only see the sides, and that says Xia. You know, when it's on the shelf, you only see the sides, and that says Xia, so that's fine. You don't really need it on the top. I quite like that. But I did toy, not with this one because, you know, the way that I had to cut it in order to get as much space here between the lettering and the edge, I had to cut slightly into this. But I could have cut another one off the back of the box. But I did consider cutting out a square and insetting Xia into it. I thought that could look really nice. But there wasn't any way I could do it without it either impinging on the ship or hassling the space of the ship. You know, if I could have got it, say, there, and it didn't chop the ship, I would have done it. I would have done it, but I couldn't find a place for that to go. So I thought, sod it, we'll just live without the Xia. Doesn't matter, does it? And I actually really like the look of that top. One of the bummers, these bits, which are the symbols for the time and the number of players, and underneath it says the time and the number of players. I had to chop all the writing off in order to make it fit. So these are 3 symbols that actually mean nothing, because it doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't tell you how many players, it doesn't tell you the time. I don't care, really. I got the thing on and looking nice, so I was delighted, because that's always a bit of a stress thing. You know, you make the box, can you make the graphics work? Right, let's talk about these sides. So these side bits were much longer. They're probably coming out here in the length originally. And let's look at the other side. And normally what I would do is I just chop that off and stick the whole thing on. But if I'd done that, this ship would have just been half the ship. It would have been sticking out here. That's, you know, and it looked a bit weird. And I've done that kind of thing in the past, but I really wanted that whole ship on there. So what I did was I cut the Xia bit out, and then I cut it from the other side. So this was how it was originally. So instead of cutting here, I've come from this side and I cut it there. So I've cut this bit out, which is fine. And then I chamfer it. You know, I always chamfer these bits to make them look nice, and that actually makes a really nice looking frame for these pieces. I think that looks really nice. I don't mind doing this frame bit, it looks good. And the same for here. Again, I wanted to get the spaceship on because that's, you know, it's telling you about the game. And again, I've cut this bit off. But on the sides, I actually just cut the ends off. On this one, that was like that. And I actually just cut the ends off because it wouldn't have really worked if I'd done it that way. I just thought that looked better, and at least I have got some information about the time and the players from the original box on there. And the same here, I just cut that whirly bit off, that planet. It wasn't that important. That looks fine. That looks fine. And then in my early on in the thing, all the way through it, I did consider using that on the top. This was again another decision to use the expansion picture on the top instead of that, because initially I wasn't that happy that I was losing Xia. I thought if I can get Xia on, I thought that would look nice. But it's just a little bit too short. You know, you would have got a big black bit here and a big black bit here, and I did consider maybe I could put that and then cut something else out, a bit of a space scene off, you know, the expansion box, and put it on here, or put a thin strip of something above and below it to fill it out. So I did consider that, and then that has everything, and then that's telling you that the expansion's in here as well. But I prefer that picture to this picture. Do you know? I'm really pleased I went with this one. But again, it just goes to show how much time I would spend thinking of things, thinking of ways to make it as good as possible. And that's why they take so long, because I don't just bung them together. You know, some boxes are quicker than others, but especially when it's a game that I like as much as this, and it's got as many pieces as this, and challenges because you're bringing it small. I would spend hours and hours, days and weeks thinking in order to get it right. And then once it's right and you've done it and you get a result like this, it's all worth it, you know, because I've made boxes that I've rushed through and I'm like, you know, there's always a bit of me that's unhappy with them. Another thing with this box that I don't know if I've solved, but I've made it better is I have problems with lids warping in the past, and I think I've solved, or I've made a way of making that better. One of the problems is the paint. I'll make a separate video in my How to Build a Board Game Box series about things that I've learnt at some point, if you want to watch those. I think that's pretty much everything. I can't think of much more to say. What was there to say? It's heavy. It's heavy and it looks nice on the shelf. What can I say? I think that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this format's better because you don't have to watch all the waffle. If you want to see the box, you can see the box. If you want the waffle, why do you want the waffle? Maybe you like my waffle, I don't know. I like waffling. Then you can have the waffle. So you can have the box or the waffle, and you can have both. You can have it all. It's great. Goodbye. And thank you very much for watching. So thank you very much. I always got to do a stupid voice here, and I don't know whether to get rid of that stupid bit at the beginning when I do a stupid voice, because that's a bit weird, and some people might find that a bit weird, you know what I mean? Goodbye.